started using this vacant area between the sidewalk and the streets, they said, this ordinance, it says you can't put anything on the sidewalk. So first they moved the tents out. They said, no, tents are structures. You need a building permit. You need to get approval by the city. You have to pay like a couple $100 per tent to make sure it's been inspected and it's safe. It's a tent, people. It's not a high-rise building. But nonetheless, as I said, so then there were people sleeping just with sleeping bags. They said, no, it says you can't put anything on the public way. Well, how about all those people who are downtown in the Loop, waiting for a bus and they put a briefcase down? Did the police harass them? No, of course not. This is a law like so many that are only enforced against poor people. Only against poor people. What's the result of all this? The result of all this is a prison system which is exploding nationwide. It is full of people who we are trying to hide instead of solving problems like homelessness, like mental illness, like the disparity of income in this country. And that disparity, it's really hard to get a grasp on. There are 5 individuals in this country who own as much stuff as the poorest half of the country. Half the people in the United States own exactly the same amount as 5 people in the United States. That is an unbelievable number. The other day, the stock market had some blip in it. Amazon, after President Trump tweeted out something about how they should be shut down, the stock went way down. Zuckerberg, the owner of a big chunk of Facebook, lost like $20 million in one day. And imagine, you can lose $100 million in one day and not have any impact on your life whatsoever. $100 million is enough to solve homelessness in the city of Chicago. We could build not just a tiny house, but a big house for every single homeless person in the city of Chicago. The wealth disparity in this country is unbelievable. It's hard to wrap your mind around these numbers that are in billions. And now Apple, the people who make the cell phone that I have in my pocket, they're worth $1 trillion, a number that no other company in the history of the world has ever reached, $1 trillion. This is money that is unbelievable for the rest of us. And so do we worry about actually solving these problems, income disparity, homelessness, the lack of health care, poisoned water? And if you think it's just in Flint, it is not. Chicago has just as bad a problem as Flint does, but we haven't caught it yet. All of our pipes are made out of lead too. All our schools have water that is infested with lead. If you go around the Park District, you'll see that all the water fountains are either running continuously or not working at all. Why is that? Somebody can't accumulate the pipes and can't drink it because they're all lead infused. All of those problems we don't want to solve in this country. Instead, we want to hide those problems behind prison walls. That's why this country locks up more people than any country in the history of the world, both in terms of absolute numbers and in terms of a percentage of our population. We lock up more people than China, we lock up more people than India, both countries that have 5, 6, 7, many times as many people as we do. We lock up a higher percentage of people than Russia did at the height of the gulags. And of course, as you probably all know, this experiment mass incarceration is not evenly distributed among the population. Poor people, and particularly poor people of color, and particularly young black men, are bearing the brunt of this great experiment mass incarceration we're doing. Everybody in this society uses drugs at the same rate, rich, poor, black, white, doesn't matter. They all use drugs at approximately the same rate. So the United States is like 70% white, 65% white, 65% of drug users are white. It's about 15% black, 15% of the drug users are black. Same thing, right? But not when you look at who goes to prison for using drugs, or for possession of drugs, or sales of drugs. It's exactly reversed. Even though only 15% of drug users are black, almost 50% of the people in prison for drugs are black. So who's in prison has nothing to do with who violates the law. The other example, Facebook. Anybody here on Facebook? A few of you have Facebook accounts, right? And I don't want you to have to like tattle on yourselves, but does anybody here know somebody who's not using their full legal name on Facebook? Bet somebody knows them. How many of you know that that's a felony? According to the United States government, using Facebook without using your real legal name on it is a felony. But does the FBI set up little stings to catch people on Facebook using the false names? Do they go around checking people's names, running their databases, asking you for birth certificates? No, they don't do that. If they did that, the prison system would be full of replace white people. And we would put up laws for those people because we're the ones who power the society. So it's all about what laws we choose to enforce, and most importantly, who we choose to enforce them against. We need to get people off the street. We need to use the community resources to start building homes. The United States government, they stopped building subsidized housing. I don't know if people know this. We used to have public housing all over the place. The United States government stopped building public housing years ago. They don't do that anymore. They run Section 8 programs, and there's a long, long waiting list to get on Section 8. At this point, years and years and years before you get a Section 8 certificate. But even that just drives up the price of housing, because then what used to be low-cost housing, you get subsidized by the government, so that price goes up, and it doesn't actually increase the supply of really cheap housing. It doesn't do that. The government needs to build low-income housing, but it's not doing that. We need to increase the supply of low-income housing. That's the only way we're going to solve the homeless problem in this country, is increase the supply of low-cost housing, wrap that housing around with the kinds of services that the government is also cutting: mental health care, physical care, job readiness, job training, alcohol abuse, and other substance abuse treatment. All those things need to get wrapped together around the housing, but you can't deliver those services until people have a place to live, because you can't find them, because they're working too hard to survive every day. You need a community, because people support each other. That's how everybody survives, is through a community. You can't isolate people here and there and spread them all over the city and expect them to survive. We've talked to people who used to be under that viaduct who are now in dire straits, because when they were under the viaducts, they could support each other. When they were under the viaducts, people knew where to bring them tents. When they're under the viaducts, people knew where to bring them food. Now when they're scattered all over the place, nobody knows how to get them at all. There's no food for them, there's no water for them, there's no anything for them. They need community, just like I need community, just like all of you are here in community. Community is what makes us safe. Community is what makes it possible to live. We need to build communities that low-income people can live in. Low-cost housing, low-income people, get them in it. Tiny homes is a great way to do that, because nobody else is doing it. Get our model together, get some of them built, and then show the government that this is what we have to do. We have to provide homes for people. If we don't, we're never going to solve our problems. We're just going to see more and more and more people wandering the streets and sleeping under bridges when they get away with it. Thank you very much.